This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Friday, the 10th day of March in the year 2023. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting, and here's what we're tracking tonight. The government of Guyana today signed a $35.4 million US contract for the implementation of an electronic identification system, which will be used for the issuance of work permits and resident identification. The contract was signed with the Veridos company, which is a Germany-based company that specializes in integrated identity solutions. At the signing ceremony at State House today, President Irfan Ali said the implementation of the electronic identification system will significantly increase the ease of doing business in Guyana.
E-ID systems promote the idea of one citizen, one identity, by assigning a unique national registration number to each citizen for use by all government agencies. Private sector, for example, in the banking sector now, we know the difficulties there. Through this card, the banking sector now can have fingerprint verification and validation of the person who's before them. So the need for proof of address and all the other documentation is eliminated. So the cost of doing business, the effectiveness, the competitiveness, the efficiency, all improve as a result of this technology.
Additionally, the new card will be used for the management of work permits and, according to the president, would enable better documentation of migrants here through the issuance of resident cards. The EID cards will be laser engraved with black and white technology, secured pre-printed designs and devices for a state-of-the-art polycarbonate material, which includes a chip that can integrate a variety of services to the individual. In addition to the production of the EID card and installation of the electronic identification system, the contract covers training for administrators and operators, as well as 6 months of support and maintenance services following the 12-month implementation period. According to the president, the electronic identification system will better position the country on the global stage.
The ID cards that we are going to implement for Guyana is going to position Guyana among a set of nations that has one of the most technologically advanced electronic identification system. The ID cards are compliant with 18013-5 of the ISO standard. What this means is that this card has the possibility. Well, first of all, this card is also accepted by the International Civil Aviation Organization for International Travel. So that is the level and integrity of the card. Not only does it come with the highest level of ISO compliance, but it is also accepted by the International Civil Aviation Organization for International Travel.
President Ali said as a result of that compliance, it brings with it technical and international standards and requirements addressing issues of security, identity, credential, privacy, and cross-border protection. He also said, given his government's commitment to promote e-governance as part of its quest to improve the productivity of businesses and delivery of government services through the introduction of e-education, there is need to implement a robust national identity management system.
This ID system would improve access to all citizen-centric government services and benefits the citizens, private sector, and government alike. This will bring us in line with solutions used by the most developed economies and position Guyana to be a competitive sphere in a world that is moving drastically, advancing drastically along a technological landscape.
The Veridos company, which will be taking the lead in the project, was among 2 companies recommended by Sheikh Ahmad Al Maktoum of the United Arab Emirates after the government requested some assistance. He said their identification system solutions were evaluated by a technical team comprising members of the National Data Management Authority and the Office of the National ICT Advisor. Veridos is partly owned by the government of Germany. More news coming up in just a moment.
It's been a long time coming. Overdue, some might say, but now that it's here, It will change life forever, and it is here to stay. The future is now, transforming Guyana into the 21st century. Introducing GTT Fiber. Experience internet connectivity like never before. Speeds you deserve at prices you can afford from a name you can trust. Sign up today. GTT Fiber is here. GTT. Together, we rise faster.
At Giftland Office Max, we're all about customer satisfaction. Whether it's clothing and shoes for the ladies, gents, and kids, or for the latest electronics or hardware appliance, we're always thinking of satisfying you, our dear customers. Now you can shop online at www.giftlandofficemax.com or visit us at the Giftland Mall, where we're happy to serve each and every one of you.
Fina, how you could get yarning on today's pension day?
I collect my pension and went to the market since the 23rd.
How you mean?
I tell you, Levy switched to lodgement. Since me last book finished, I switched.
You join up a lodge, was this lodgement?
Oh, the NIS lodgement system allows pensioners to get their pension into their bank account. The money is paid into the account by the 23rd of the month, so you could withdraw it whenever you like.
So wait, I ain't got to join no long line. Why you ain't tell me before?
I told you, please. When you go to submit your life certificate, ask them for the allotment application form. When you complete it and the bank verify it, then NIS is going to process it. After they process it, your money will be in your account.
Well, all right, I join them now.
And don't forget, when you're carrying your life certificate, ask them for the lodgement application form.
For further information, please visit the website at www.nis.org.gy, the National Insurance Scheme Facebook page, or your nearest NIS office.
Get in the game with Buster. Win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Strong and solid in countries far and wide. New India Assurance, we're standing by your side. Golden service, half a century and more. New India Assurance, our policies are secure. From the heart of India, we serve these islands. The strength that you can trust, you're safe when you come to us.
New India Assurance Company. Assurance when you need it most.
For your home, motor or business insurance, visit New India Guyana office, 58 Brickdam next to Star Computers. Telephone 2260415-7. Comfortable parking available.
Let's tell you now that executive member of the Alliance for Change and former head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Vincent Adams, has accused the government of being complicit and encouraging unlimited flaring of natural gas by the ExxonMobil company offshore Guyana. He said he is concerned that a continuous flaring could have devastating environmental impacts. During an AFC press conference today, Dr. Adams responded to statements made by the Vice President Bara Jagdeo last week. Last week, the Vice President said that the government has put measures in place which will see a reduction in flaring and a fee being paid to the EPA whenever the company has to flare. But Dr. Adams said the initial agreement signed by the coalition government prohibited flaring, and even in the early days of the PP Civic administration, the no flaring policy was observed. According to Dr. Adams, flaring at the Liza 1 could have been stopped with cutting production by 7 to 15%, or about 7,000 to 15,000 barrels of oil per day. He said that is based on the 7 to 15 million cubic feet of gas that was reported as being flared per day.
They decided to go ahead and change that permit to give Exxon 60 days of flaring, and even when you exceed that 60 days, then you start paying this paltry fee. And I've written about this. Well, guess what? All you got to do to stop flaring is to cut back on your production by a certain level, because every buyer brings up a certain amount of flaring.
Last year, the ExxonMobil company indicated that it has paid over $10 million to the Environmental Protection Agency as a fee for flaring of climate-harming gases.
The government has removed that restriction where we said that there shall be no flaring. So now, basically what the permit has in them is that Exxon can flare unlimited quantities as long as you can pay for it.
2 years ago, the EPA disclosed that the environmental permit for the Liza Phase 1 development project offshore Guyana had been modified, and ExxonMobil's subsidiary EEPGL would now be required to pay for gas flaring once it continues beyond the 14-day period. While the permit initially said the Exxon company will be paying a fine for flaring, the payment is now being described as a fee. Well, the U.S. ambassador to Guyana, Sarah Ann Lynch, believes that Guyanese teachers deserve to be fairly compensated for their job. She made those comments at the opening of the Women and Girls Summit on Thursday, while advocating for women in the public and private sectors to play an even greater role as Guyana undergoes major economic, social, and infrastructural transformation. Ambassador Lynch said the public sector in Guyana has a big task to provide women and everyone else with quality education. But while applauding the government for increasing the 2023 budgetary allocation to the education sector, she said more can be done to attract and retain talented teachers. Though increasing the salaries of healthcare workers, police officers, firefighters, and soldiers in 2022, the government has not increased the salaries of teachers outside of the 8% across-the-board increase offered to all public servants. And that was despite calls by the Guyana Teachers Union. For Ambassador Lynch, appropriate pay and incentives should be applied in other sectors as well. She applauded the move by the government to increase the salaries of healthcare professionals in 2022, saying that it was a significant step for healthcare providers, the majority of whom are women. The ambassador also noted that the public sector is critical to the development of both the education and health sectors, but the government cannot do it alone.
The government can't do this work alone, nor should they. The private sector has a key role, and I would argue a responsibility to play in advocating and enabling the contributions. This is a critical time in Guyana's development and a critical time for the private sector to be involved. With such an urgent need for talented people, Guyana cannot afford to leave anyone behind, especially its hardworking women.
Importantly, she said women need a safe and welcoming place to work that is free from harassment, inappropriate comments, and from any form of discrimination. On the legal front, the U.S. ambassador said in the U.S. and increasingly in Guyana, women are protected with certain legal provisions. The ambassador noted that there is still work to be done. Pointing to the recent Guyana Labor Force survey published in 2021, the U.S. ambassador said women account for 52% of Guyana's working age population, but only 42% of the total labor force. On average, Guyanese women earn 14% less than their male counterparts for similar jobs.
Work to be done there. And Guyana's countries all over, including the United States, struggle with gender equity. But at a time when we constantly hear about the struggle to find quality staff, advocating for the equitable treatment of women is an important step that will help Guyana better sustain its economic growth and help ensure its success.
The ambassador said access to finance can also be a crucial barrier with women-owned businesses, oftentimes not able to get the finance that they need to get to the next level. However, she said in Guyana, the Women's Chamber is playing an increasing role in mentoring women entrepreneurs. A Linden farmer who has been identified as 44-year-old Tito Brown was sentenced to 4 years in jail after he was found guilty of trafficking 2 Jamaican nationals. Brown, also known as Tommy and Yankee, received 2 4-year jail sentences when he appeared before Magistrate Wanda Fortune at the Linden Magistrates Court on Thursday. The 2 sentences will run concurrently. The Guyana Police Force in a statement today said Brown was also sentenced to 1 year in jail on the count of withholding the passports of the 2 Jamaican men. He was also fined $200,000 and ordered to pay $6.3 million to the 2 men in restitution. Magistrate Fortune handed down the sentences after an 8-month-long trial that began in December of 2021 and concluded last August. According to the prosecution's case in November of 2020, one of the victims met an individual in Jamaica who indicated that Brown needed someone to work on his farm in Linden and was willing to pay that person $5,000 for the work to be done. The first victim reportedly informed the second victim about the opportunity, and together they arranged with Brown, who promised to facilitate all their travel expenses. The men left Jamaica on the 12th of December 2020, and upon their arrival here in Guyana, Brown instructed them to inform immigration that they would only be spending 2 weeks. The victims said they were taken to a campsite at Caracara Creek in Linden, and they were informed that they would be spending 6 months at a campsite, and he confiscated their passports. The victims also recounted that from the date of entry to the 24th of April 2021, they worked at the Caracara camp but never received any compensation from the Guyanese man. They added that he would visit periodically and demanded they work more diligently. Though he continuously promised to pay them, he never did. They were only allowed to contact their families from his phone whenever he visited the campsite. They told the police that for 3 weeks no one visited them and their supplies ran low, forcing them to leave the site. They were forced to venture from the camp in search of other campsites, and while walking through bushes and swamplands, they located a logger who eventually took them to a nearby village, and they made their way to the police. Brown was arrested on the 28th of April 2021, one day after a wanted bulletin had been issued for his arrest. Just last week, a wildlife trader, Faisal Shaw, was sentenced to 3 years in jail on 1 count of human trafficking. He was ordered to pay $2.1 million in restitution to his victim.
Guyana, ride into the future with the next generation eco-friendly Axiom installed elevators and escalators. Call us today on telephone number 619-0899 or 648-0934. Email us at axiomliftsgy@gmail.com for affordable elevators, escalators, moving walks, industrial lifts, home solutions, modernization, repair, and servicing. Axiom Elevator Services, technology for people on the move.
Traits Management, Structure, and Cashmere Rosé presents Sundress Soiree, Champagne and Cocktail Event, Saturday, April 8th at Everest Cricket Ground. Contribution $8,000. This is a day into night event. Doors open from 3 p.m. to 1 a.m. Free. Cocktail hour, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Sundress Soiree. You know the vibes.
Opposition Member of Parliament and former Public Works Minister David Patterson is of the view that the country will have to brace itself for daily power outages if the Guyana Power and Light Company does not fix some of its current challenges. Patterson said he believes those challenges are well over 15 in number, and they range from faulty equipment to improper maintenance. During a press conference today, the opposition MP said the bulk of GPL's issues are in its procurement processes. He accused the government of purchasing substandard power generation equipment that cannot work beyond 3 months, thereby creating a condition for the company to always be in need of new equipment.
Under the guise of public procurement, they started opening back out tenders for, say, small things like spacers and fuses and those things like that. And then they started going back to the lowest bidder. What we did from 2015 to 2020 is we went to the manufacturers of the best products. So therefore, obviously, when we bought a fuse or a spacer, isolator, we went to the European companies, and so they've gone back using what they said, how they call it the procurement method, and they have these middlemen who go and buy. Sorry to say, because China does produce good product, but they started buying back these cheap plastic spacers, these cheap plastic products, that give you 3 months only of service.
The opposition member of parliament also explained that the coalition government was able to reduce the frequency of blackouts during its term in office. He said GPL now seems to be rolling back all of the plans which were put in place by the previous government to ensure a more stable service.
If you don't address it now, right now there's a deficiency in power supplies because nothing is working. So for the next 2 years, when they are depending on bringing that, if we start addressing these issues, these 17 issues, it's probably gone back up to 17. Every single day as we're having now, we'll be having power failures.
According to MP Patterson, even the government's much touted gas ashore project will not bring much ease if GPL does not get its lines in order. Over the past several weeks, the Guyana Power and Light Company has been forced to apologize for blackouts, which sometimes last for hours. While some of those outages were not caused directly by the company, there were a number of power outages that were directly linked to the company's power generation systems. The chairman of the Joint Services, Brigadier Godfrey Best, today reminded and assured the nation that irrespective of its ethnic composition, the Joint Services of Guyana is an apolitical institution and will continue to uphold a noble position of service to the people of Guyana. The statement from Brigadier Best came in response to a statement by a member of the Working People's Alliance during a political meeting in Buxton. At that meeting, the WPA member Takuma Ugunsi highlighted the ethnic makeup of the Joint Services and the political preference of those members of the Joint Services over the years, saying that they are not supportive of the incumbent party. The Joint Services chairman has now urged social activists and political and other commentators to refrain from misleading and mischievous remarks, which he said could incite racial tensions and deviates from the promotion of the peace and security of the nation, which the services are mandated to maintain.
Food Max Supermarket, located on the ground floor of the Giftland Mall, is your one-stop shop for all your grocery needs. We stock a variety of imported frozen meat and food products, fresh produce, and pet supplies, freshly made bread. Rotisserie chicken and patties are also available daily. Shop in comfort today at Food Max and let our courteous staff assist you in satisfying your shopping needs. Food Max, the fresh food specialist.
It's one of your biggest goals, getting your own home, where memories are made, where happiness lives. You may feel that home ownership or renovation is beyond your reach, but we at Republic want you to know that there's always a way. Ask us about our suite of mortgages. Let's help make your housing wishes come true. Or advise on how the equity in your existing home can finance other dreams and goals. Call or go online to learn more.
Buster, win a full gaming setup, Xbox X, gaming chair, gaming speaker and headset, or any of over 60 weekly prizes like Oculus Quest 2, Mini 2 drone, Nintendo Switch, and many more top gaming prizes. Check below for details.
Fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up, fuel it up and drive, Super 95. Tune up. Protect your fuel system, boy. High mileage and performance, boy.
Guy Super 95 gasoline gives you more reasons to drive and is available at 56 service stations nationwide. For affordable price, high performance, and high mileage, choose Guy Super 95 gasoline.
Fuel it up and drive!
Across the region tonight, Argentina has launched an offensive on gangs in the farm hub city of Rosario, bringing in some 575 security personnel after a spate of attacks, including the killing of an 11-year-old boy and the threat against soccer star Lionel Messi. The inland river port city that has a history of gang violence has seen around one murder a day this year, which has rattled the country and prompted a major national response. On the streets of Rosario, the Reuters news agency said armored vehicles and patrols carrying out searches and documents were seen. Many people spoke of their fear of the gangs in Argentina. The government of Argentina has indicated that it plans to continue its crackdown against the criminal gangs. The Turks and Caicos Islands continue to deal with an influx of illegal migrants after a vessel was intercepted earlier this week. According to an official report, the Marine Branch officers of the Royal Turks and Caicos Islands Police Force were dispatched following reports that a suspicious vessel was seen making its way towards West Caicos. Acting on the information received at around 2:51 on Wednesday in the afternoon, the officers via the sea-protected vessel intercepted a migrant vessel about 3.5 miles southwest of the Bluff, Providence. The migrant vessel was found carrying a total of 202 illegal migrants, 40 females, including 3 minors, and 162 males, including 1 minor. The illegal migrants were handed over to the Immigration Task Force. Additionally, Marine officers seized 4 packages containing what appeared to be marijuana floating in close proximity to the illegal migrant vessel. The suspected drugs were handed over to the officers. The officials in the Turks and Caicos Islands said this was the 8th interception for this year. And finally tonight, international news. Middle East regional rivals Iran and Saudi Arabia have agreed to renew diplomatic relations 7 years after severing them in a bitter row. The unexpected announcement came after 4 days of talks between senior officials from both sides in China. Saudi Arabia cut ties in January 2016 after demonstrators stormed its embassy in Tehran, following Riyadh's execution of a prominent Shia Muslim cleric. Tensions between the Sunni and Shia-led neighbors have since often been high. They see each other as seeking regional dominance and consider each other a threat. They are also aligned with rivals across the Middle East, including in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and the most overtly in Yemen. Iran has supported Shia Houthi rebels who forced out the Saudi-backed government in 2014, while Saudi Arabia has led a devastating air campaign against the Houthis since the following year. Saudi Arabia has also accused Iran of helping the Houthis to attack it. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight and this week. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting and encouraging you to stay safe and have an enjoyable weekend.